and welcome to this episode of Season 4 of the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter, my lovely co-presenter, and often guests, talk about digital topics, including the world of online communication and digital inclusion, in a show which is the brainchild of digital storyteller, the late John Popham, who's much missed, and we wish he was here to chat about the things that we talk about on this show. Today we don't have a guest, so it's just myself and Sweyn, and we hope you enjoy what we bring to you. And if you would like to be a guest or suggest another guest on the show, please do contact us through the usual channels. Sweyn, how are you, and how's the weather been this week where you are?
I'm very well, thank you. And the weather has been astoundingly good since this time last week. We've had lots of sunshine. We had one drizzly day yesterday, but the sun is back out today again in Kirkwall in Orkney. How about you?
In Birmingham, in the West Midlands, it has been glorious. On Saturday I was at the Bosset Heath retrofit action day all day, and I was able to be inside and outside. It was lovely, lovely, lovely. Great for all the people who came. And Sunday,
is that insulation of buildings and things? Is that what
it
that's
is,
about?
yes, installation of buildings and communities. We encompass the whole retrofit in its widest interpretation.
No, that's great to hear.
Yeah. And we had some really, really good speakers, including speakers from the Muslim, Jewish, and Christian faiths, talking about bringing everything into under the umbrella of community, which was really beneficial for all of us. And then Sunday I went to Winterbourne House and Gardens, which is the local property where university students get in for free, and other people pay. So I have an annual membership to there, and it was very nice to wander around the gardens and have tea and cakes with my friend. So
lovely.
Yeah, very nice indeed.
Great.
So today we are back to Dr. Tech Show, and Sweyn, you found some dates for us to talk about.
I have, and as usual, I'm all in a mess with what I should be speaking about, so I will just do my thing as best I can. Let's share the first event which I found, which is date. It's a date. It's a month. It's Local and Community History Month, which I thought would be quite appropriate for lots of stuff that we do here. And the whole of May is Local and Community History Month, and the aim is to increase awareness of local history, promote history in general to the local community, and encourage all members of the community to participate. This is run by an organization called the Historical Association, whose strapline is The Voice for History. And I think that's a UK-wide, if not international, organization. Activities happen across the UK and include trips, library exhibitions, and local lectures. It's a great way for groups to highlight local history and for local people to get involved. It's starting to sound a bit like that program, which local shop for local people. We'll skim over that. One of the strengths of the Historical Association is their broad interest in all areas of history. So many history themes and narratives focus on the big issues, but for many of us, history starts in the local, which is why they introduced this month. It's an opportunity to promote, highlight, and celebrate the local history that is around us at all times. So each year, the month goes from strength to strength, and a searchable calendar has been created. Now, I'm not going to distract myself by finding that on the shared screen there. So if you can register, you can log any events that you're running, and you can find out what's all going on. And the hashtag that they're using, if you're into hashtags, to talk about all of this is #HALHM24. There's various other things to say about that, but visit the website and you will find all the details. Well, I live in a place, as do you, where local history literally is everywhere. Birmingham has a fantastically interesting history, at least 300 or 400 years of it. Orkney has, it has history which shades into prehistory, really. And so it's great. I'm sure that almost no matter where you live in the UK, there will be a local history association that covers where that is. And this is a good chance to kind of think about that and consider joining in.
And as ever, we encourage people to use their local libraries to find local history resources. I know in Birmingham, the local history section is always very busy with lots of people looking up new things, old things, bringing their own materials in and getting them verified and stuff like that. So yeah, very promotable.
Yep.
Hmm.
So the next thing that we found was something called I've hidden it from myself.
National Teen
National Teen
Self-Esteem Month.
Self-Esteem Month.
Hmm.
Yes. So is that sharing? Not yet. Here we go. There we go. National Teen Self-Esteem Month 2024. Again, the whole of May. And I just thought this was a good one for us to highlight because, as well as all the benefits of digital inclusion, one of the downsides is definitely the impact that particularly social media can have on some young people, if not most young people to some extent.
Hmm.
And I thought this was a great thing. I think it's a national day in the US, but I thought we
Mm-hmm.
could mention it anyway. It's a month dedicated to focusing on enhancing self-esteem among teenagers, as the name suggests. This initiative encourages communities, schools, and families to actively engage in activities that boost confidence and self-respect in young people. So the Self-Esteem Month is an annual event that aims to raise awareness rather, and foster understanding about the importance of self-esteem in teenagers and highlights the impact of self-esteem on every aspect of a teenager's life, including academic performance, relationships, and mental health. So this is the month of May, and we're in it, and they're encouraging people to do things like organize workshops, encourage positive online behavior, to engage in community sports, create art projects, and so on and so on and so on.
Mm.
And it really just serves as a platform to spotlight the crucial role that self-esteem plays in the healthy development of young people. There's a whole hash of hashtags, which I'll not read out, and there's more information on on what's going on. I've not shared their own website because it's a bit awkward to share it's quite dense, so I've just shared the awareness there, but there'll be a link there through to more information.
Right.
Do we have another one? Yes, we do have one more, which is
tomorrow.
Do you want to say? Sorry, did you want to say anything about?
No, just say it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
Or tomorrow? No. We have again. Oh, there's a dog barking in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. We have a United Nations Day. We've not had a United Nations Day for a while, and this one is a brilliant one actually. World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development. And that, as you say, is tomorrow, the 21st. So protecting the diversity of cultural expressions is more important than ever, they say. Held every year on the 21st of May, UNESCO leads the celebration of World Day for Cultural Diversity and Dialogue and Development, highlighting not only the richness of the world's cultures, but also the essential role of intercultural dialogue for achieving peace and sustainable development. I thought that was a really interesting slant on thinking about cultural diversity for achieving peace and sustainable development. With 89% of all current conflicts in the world occurring in countries with low intercultural dialogue, I'd like to see the science behind that, but it's a good number. To forge effective cooperation and sustain peace, strengthening intercultural dialogue must be a priority. And according to UNESCO data, the cultural and creative sector is one of the most powerful engines of development worldwide. I don't think that's any surprise. It accounts for more than 48 million jobs globally, almost half of which are held by women, representing 6.2% of all existing employment and 3.1% of global GDP. So that's the cultural and creative sector we're talking about. It is also the sector that employs and provides opportunities for the largest number of people under the age of 30. However, the cultural and creative sector still does not have the place it deserves in public policies and international cooperation. So in a bid to change this, in September 2022, delegations from 150 states gathered in Mexico for Mondia Cult 2022. The largest world conference devoted to culture in the last 40 years. And they unanimously adopted the historic Declaration for Culture, affirming culture as a global public good and calling for it to be integrated as a specific goal in its own right in the development agenda beyond 2030. The text defines a set of cultural rights that need to be taken into account in public policies, and they range from the social and economic rights of artists to artistic freedom, the right of indigenous communities to safeguard their ancestral knowledge, and the protection and promotion of cultural and natural heritage. And it also calls for substantial regulation of the digital sector, notably of the major platforms, for the benefit of online cultural diversity, artists' intellectual property rights, and fair access to content for all. So this is quite interesting. I'd never heard of it before, but I will certainly be investigating a bit more. There's a whole lot more blurb on the website, but again, I think I've probably read enough of that. Yeah, that's I remember first noticing this kind of issue when somebody many years ago now mentioned that the pop group ABBA was responsible for more exports from Sweden than any other business, or some statistic like that. At the height of their popularity, they were like a major part of Sweden's export activity. And that those details about how much of the global GDP and so on is contributed to by cultural stuff, I think is quite interesting.
Yeah, it's good. I like data like that. How would this affect stuff in Orkney? You know,
the day?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, cultural stuff, history, music, literature, all of those things is a set of very important local things, and they are promoted and to some extent funded and protected. And we do to some extent have, local instances of people who originally come from other cultures getting organized, getting funded, and joining in the melee of events that happens all year in Orkney. Yeah, I think we're a reasonably affluent area, and we're very much aware of our history and so on. So I think we start from quite a reasonably positive place as far as cultural diversity for dialogue and development is concerned. Yeah. Birmingham, I always think, is also pretty strong in that sort of stuff.
Yeah, lots of different
As long as the council doesn't cut all the budgets for that sort of thing, of course.
Obviously can't possibly comment on that, but yes, I think friends of mine are having those discussions.
I think there's some proposal to cut 50% of those budgets in this next year and then 100% the year after. Is that correct, factually?
That sounds like
that does not sound
right. Yeah,
like
it doesn't sound good though.
News for cultural diversity for dialogue and development.
No.
So I hope they think about that carefully again tomorrow. Birmingham City Council, I'm talking to you. Pauline would rather I didn't, probably, but I am talking to you.
I won't comment.
Moving on.
Moving on. We have picked up a couple of events from our friends at the Digital Poverty Alliance, who are amongst others who promote the ending of digital poverty in the UK. And on the 4th of June, they will be releasing the National Delivery Plan. They produced one last year, and it was very, very helpful, just bringing all this information together. So they're offering a day. It's going to be in Carlisle, I think, actually.
Equally horrible for everyone to travel to, except if you live in Cumberland.
But there we go.
I admire that.
Yeah, getting around the place. The day was going to offer a platform for robust discussions with keynote speeches and a panel debate anchored by their industry forum partners, Meshi. Highlighting the event, Elizabeth Anderson, the CEO, will outline the advancements made and the forthcoming strategies under the National Delivery Plan, and Joel Tiller, Head of External Affairs, will delve into the collaborative efforts driving our mission forward. We are going to have Joel on the programme, actually, at some stage in this season, so look forward to that. So back to the event on the 4th of June. There's going to be a panel discussion on critical topics, including bridging the gap, innovative approaches to connectivity affordability, featuring Chris Thompson, who's the CEO of Meshi, Dan Bremer, Deputy Director of Gov UK Content Policy and Strategy, and Vicky Burgess, Work and Skills Officer, Roche Borough Council. And that panel will be chaired by a representative from VMO2, Virgin Media O2 Business. And there's going to be another panel, Empowering Users, Navigating the Digital Landscape Safely and Securely. And further details of that panel will be provided shortly. So we'll probably come back to that at another programme before the 4th of June to update you on that. And the second event is on this week, on the 22nd of May, so Wednesday, at 1 p.m. The title is The Ripple Effect, How Digital Technology Can Provide Essential Interventions and Save Lives. And at this event on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, Elizabeth Anderson, again, CEO of the Digital Poverty Alliance, and Sam Smith explores the ripple effect, how digital technology can provide essential interventions and save lives, particularly timely as last week was Mental Health Awareness Week in the UK. The blurb says, access to the internet and digital technologies can become a burden on our mental health and drain our energy, but technology can also offer us different social connections and provide interventions in times of crisis. They're going to discuss the importance of innovative digital technology in mental health support, how essential intervention can save lives, and Sam's optimism for how technology can be a force for good. So that sounds like a one for lots of people to benefit from.
Two very good events.
We'll put the link. Go on.
Go ahead. We will put the link in the description, as you were saying. Yep. I've actually registered for both of them, although online in each case. Yeah. I would love to go to Carlisle Castle. I've not been there for years, but I don't think I can that day.
I've registered for that one on the 4th of June as well. Although actually I'll be in Ireland then, so I don't know whether we'll be able to attend, but I'll try. Yeah. And the ripple effect, it sounds really good, and it might be beneficial to anyone who's concerned about technology and mental health as well. So recommend those. Okay, moving on. As we said earlier, we've no guests today. We are lining up some more guests for the rest of the season, and people are very, happy to come on. So we will have more guests. But as I said earlier, when I did the introduction, if you think you'd make a good guest on our show, or know of somebody else you think would make a good guest, we'd love to hear from you, and invite you or your suggested person along to talk to us. So the first of the stories we've picked up is back to Scotland, and the headline is 5 Reasons Rural Scotland is Resisting Digital Inclusion According to Experts, and this is from the mightynewsonline.co.uk website. And it says, and I'll read it out, and then Sweyn, you can tell me whether or not you have any opinion on whether it's true or not. It says rural regions worldwide are often the last frontiers of digital connectivity, yet Scotland's rural areas uniquely resist embracing such digital inclusion efforts, not out of stubbornness or a lack of modern sensibility, but a multifaceted issue rooted in practical, cultural, and economic reasons. And they give key reasons for resistance. And they give five reasons. The first one being technical limitations and infrastructure concerns. As in many other rural areas, rural parts of Scotland suffer from significant digital infrastructure deficits. Sparse populations and challenging terrains make the installation of high-speed broadband an expensive undertaking for a minimal perceived benefit. Limited internet connectivity directly impacts the functionality of many modern digital offerings, rendering them less viable or attractive for local residents. Apparently 1 million people in Scotland, or 90% of the population, struggle with using digital technology, and around 400,000 individuals don't have access to 4G internet in the areas as of 2017. Now that might have changed. I don't know whether this article was from 2024, but maybe some of the data needs to be updated. The second reason for resistance is economic factors. The costs associated with becoming digitally active can be prohibitive for those in remote Scottish communities with livelihoods traditionally dependent on agriculture or fisheries. The economic benefits of digital technology do not align well with local needs. Costs of setup and monthly access, not to mention the training required to effectively utilise digital tools, are viewed as poor investments. So I'll skim over the last 3 and we'll come back to a chat with Sweyn about it. The third factor given as reason for resistance is preference for traditional communication modes. You can relate to that, as we said earlier. People like to talk to each other. Number 4 is concerns over privacy and data security. Skepticism about how personal data is managed and used by large tech companies. And number 5 in this list of reasons for resistance is age demographics. A higher proportion of the population in rural Scotland falls into the older age brackets. Few rural areas tend to have fewer young adults between 16 and 44. More older folks, more old age 45. So 45 is older. Oh, Sweyn, we'll have to talk about that. Especially noticeable in very remote rural areas where there's a higher concentration of people aged 65 and over. So there is some insight to finish off the article. There's some insight from the tech industry. Jason Adler, a software engineer at Repocket, says in rural Scotland, as in many similar regions around the world, there's a tangible need for digital tools, but also a significant gap in how these tools align with daily life. For true digital inclusion, offering connectivity isn't enough. Technology must be relevant, accessible, and provide clear benefits. So yeah, speaks to us all there. So Sweyn, what's your take on this article?
Well, it's very interesting. I'm just scrolling back up now that I've stopped sharing to see who did this study. Not clear.
No.
Not clear. So it could be Jason Adler of Repocket that's done this study. I'm trying to look him up as well to see where he's based and what his insights might be. I mean, it's hard to disagree with a lot of it. Certainly, the technical limitations of infrastructure and the higher average cost of getting a decent connection and decent access to decent platforms. I'm not so sure personally, in my experience, and more than one anecdote is not evidence, but anecdotally in my own experience, I'm not sure that people in Island Scotland anyway, don't know so much about rural, are necessarily particularly resistant to digital inclusion. In fact, places like Orkney and farming and fishing communities historically have a very, very high level of early adoption of technology, going back to different types of horse plow and on through tractors and CB radios and the internet and so on. So and certainly I don't agree with the thing about farming and fishing being somehow resistant to change. I mean, fishing particularly has been revolutionized by GPS and other digital technologies. It's completely changed. If you mean spending time on Facebook and LinkedIn, then maybe fewer people in those industries do that, but they certainly are users of digital technology in practical ways. And there are equivalent ways in farming where digital stuff is important. Preference for traditional communication modes, perhaps, but I think that's not. I don't think that's probably more prevalent if you allow for the things that we talk about, demographics. I think there are age groups and social groups, not just older people, but others as well, who do struggle with online stuff and may prefer person-to-person type stuff. But no, I would love to see the methodology for this survey and to just kind of work out what's going on, because it certainly doesn't really tally with my experience. I might just be in a bubble, and maybe I'm the person who needs to read this. I don't know. On that link.
It does look like it was research done by Repocket, so I don't know whether they're a tech company that
they're a tech company of some sort.
Wants to promote something, yeah.
I've got Jason's LinkedIn profile here, I think. Oh no, it's not. It's just mentioning him. No, I don't know. I shouldn't really do research online on live, should I? That's a bit boring. But no, I think I will put this on my list of things to look into, I think, because I think if it's true, then we need to know it. But I'm not convinced yet that it's true, except in the most trivial sense of saying there's a lot of older and isolated people, and the costs are higher. Therefore, the statistics will look as if rural Scotland is more resistant, but actually it's not the fact that it's rural or Scotland, it's the fact that the demographic profile and the costs are higher. I think those two things straightforwardly, if you sorted them out, I don't think you'd have a story here.
It looks like I'm looking at Repocket itself, and I don't know if it's a US company, so
Okay.
it may have just, I don't know. Anyway, we'll see if we can find out any more
Yeah.
about that. Interesting. Good to share multiple views.
It's a lovely kind of challenging view of what might be going on, and I
Yeah.
think since they've all been raised as factors, we ought to look at them. But yeah, software engineer at Repocket says, I'm not quite sure that's where I would be looking for my information about rural Scotland, as you say.
No, indeed.
But there we are.
Okay, moving on. This was a story that
Oh, and by the way, I love the Mighty News Online name.
Yeah.
I first read it because it was about Scotland. There's a Mighty News, but it's not.
As you would.
Oh,
yeah,
dear.
the next story we picked up before the mayoral election, so I don't think anything has changed in it, but anyway, we'll just, with that proviso, we'll go on to it. And the headline was London's mayoral election, a turning point for digital inclusion across the UK. And this was to say that with nearly 900,000 Londoners burdened by the cost of internet access and a further 1.3 million lacking the basic digital skills to access online services, the critical nature of this issue is undeniable. A stark reminder that behind every statistic is a person at risk of being left behind in our fast-paced digital world. So there was a national policy statement as a set of recommendations and also a powerful call for systemic change directed at UK political parties and the government that will emerge post-election. So I think that's going to be their national delivery plan that we talked about earlier, urging them to prioritise the elimination of digital exclusion in their manifestos and policy planning. The DPA's vision extends beyond simply ensuring basic online connectivity, aims to empower every individual in the UK to access and benefit from essential services spanning education, employment, healthcare and welfare. They remind us that the current pace of progress is alarmingly slow, with 1 in 7 adults and 1 in 5 children still caught in the grip of digital poverty. And the DPA has what they say are clear, actionable recommendations. Firstly, to establish a cross-departmental task force, and secondly, to champion immediate targeted actions, which they suggest, and we'll share that article on the YouTube notes under this show. People can follow up themselves.
There it is, shared at last. I thought I'd shared it already, but
okay.
Okay, sorry about
thanks, Sweyn. That's great.
Okay, stop
moving on, we have something we picked up from X/Twitter from Charity Digital, the organisation that helps charities to increase their digital capacity. And the article entitled 4 Types of Digital Skills That Can Help You Thrive in the Modern World.
I got the right one?
I think you probably have.
Good, that's fine.
Yeah, and there's a video in the tweet, so we're going to play the video if that's okay.
That's absolutely fine.
Thank
Here
you.
We go. Oh.
And we're here to talk about 4 types of digital skills that you need to thrive in the modern world. Many people do not have the foundational skills needed to access the online world. 13% of UK residents could not set up a Wi-Fi connection. 9% could not change their password. 8% could not turn on a device and enter login information as required. 8% could also not open an internet browser to find websites. But the foundational skills are only one aspect of digital inclusion. To engage effectively in a so-called knowledge age, individuals need a full range of skills, as expressed by education and technology experts Bernie Trilling and Charles Fadel. We all need learning and innovation skills, which include critical thinking, problem solving, communication, and collaboration. Digital literacy skills, which include knowledge of information and communication technology, online media, and other sources of information, and career and life skills, which include initiative, productivity, leadership, and responsibility. So these 4 types of skills will allow each of us to thrive in the online world. But we should also remember that digital inclusion is a moving target. As the tech constantly evolves, the skill we need evolve too. Do you have these 4 types of digital skills? What new digital skills do you think are needed today? Let us know below. Check out our Digital Inclusion Hub for more help reaching across the digital divide.
So yeah, Charity Digital has got its own what they call Digital Inclusion Hub online, so people can add resources there and comment on what's going on. So
Great video.
yeah, just
Do
simple things.
do
Simple
we have
things.
those 4 sets of skills, Pauline? We should ask ourselves that later.
Couldn't possibly comment, but of course, yes, I would say yes. Yeah. So good to see that kind of message reinforced. Moving on, we have the next story from the big issue, and this is a story about what happened when 1,000 smartphones and tablets were given to homeless people. And it's good to hear this kind of practical story, of what's happening when we try and make things happen for other people. So this was an innovative project to distribute more than 1,000 smartphones and tablet computers to people experiencing homelessness, and it uncovered the life-changing impact of breaking down digital barriers. This is back to a Scotland story. Simon Community Scotland noticed the people the charity supported were increasingly being digitally excluded back in 2016. With a lack of skills and access to digital devices holding people back from applying for jobs, benefits, homes, and controlling their money. Some things haven't changed. The charity initially set up digital zones in its Edinburgh base for homeless people to access laptops and the internet. But when the pandemic sent everyone into lockdown, they switched to handing out devices with funding from the Scottish Government, JP Morgan, and the Good Things Foundation. And a report into the latest section of the project called Get Connected 500 found handing out devices alongside support from a frontline homelessness worker trained in digital inclusion and a learning framework on digital skills made people feel part of society. Their analysis of the Get Connected 500 project found 80% of people access digital tools to improve their digital well-being. Homeless participants reported being more connected to the things in their life that matter, exploring and learning new things, as well as gaining greater confidence and health and well-being benefits. 95% said they were feeling less lonely, and 90% of the people in the project recognized the value of the devices and held onto it rather than selling it for quick cash. So the charity plan to continue the project, which sounds really practical, helpful, exactly what you want to hear from a device distribution program. And I know more people that I'm coming across in my work are saying that a phone might be a phone or tablet is something they want, because people access the internet on their phone more often now, I think, than other ways. So yeah. So what do you reckon, Sweyn? Does that ring bells with you?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great story. I've just shared the announcement of the report, which was published within the last couple of weeks. Well, on the 24th of April, it was published. And simonscotland.org there covers that. It sounds like a brilliant bottom-up, grassroots, at the coalface, call it what you like, type project. It's brilliant.
Good. Well done to them.
They're finding the same things that every other project that does that sort of thing finds, which is that that it works. So yes,
it works because I think people are getting help as well, and they're probably helping each other. Because I noticed amongst the homeless communities that I know in Birmingham, people just help each other. So that's obviously working very well. So an unrecognized maybe group of digital champions there.
Yeah, and I think I think that this just demonstrates what's probably the thing that has changed since about 2016 is that there are now overarching funding streams and overarching methodologies and overarching help that's available if you have an idea to do a scheme. It's now, I think, much clearer where you go for help to make it happen, and it's much easier to kind of get it off the ground than it would have been 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, 2016's only 8 years ago, but and I think that is thanks to things like the Digital Poverty Alliance, the Good Things Foundation, the Digital Unite, all those overarching kind of almost a set of checklists about what to think about and how to do stuff. And I think
Yeah.
that has made a huge difference. And I think that was accelerated through the pandemic, as this individual project was as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, moving on, we have a story about WhatsApp, and we have had stories about WhatsApp group chats before, and issues about WhatsApp and messages and people being deceived, or people attempting to deceive them. But this is about group chats. I don't think we've had this before. The headline is WhatsApp group chats are targeted by fraudsters. And this is a warning coming from Action Fraud in the police, warning group chat members they could be targeted by criminals. And Action Fraud says it's received already 636 reports from victims of the messaging app this year. The fraud often begins when a member of the group receives a WhatsApp audio call from the fraudster pretending or claiming to be another member of the group. This is done to gain the individual's trust, and often the scammer will use a false profile picture and or display name. So at first glance, it looks like the person is a genuine member of the group. The fraudster will tell the victim they're sending them a one-time passcode which will allow them to join an upcoming video call for group members. The criminal then asks the victim to share this passcode with them so they can be registered, in apostrophes, for the video call. In reality, the criminal is asking for a registration code to register the victim's WhatsApp account to a new device so they can take over their account. Once the fraudster has access to the victim's WhatsApp account, they will enable two-step verification, which makes it impossible for the victim to regain access to their account. Other members of the group or friends and family in the victim's contacts will then be messaged asking them to transfer money urgently as they're in desperate need of help. So there's some guidance about avoiding being a victim. Firstly, and we would say this, and I continue to set this up in platforms I'm part of, set up two-step verification, brackets 2SV as shorthand, to give an extra layer of protection to your account, and they tell you how to do that in the details on this article. Secondly, to avoid being a victim, call. If a family member or friend makes an unusual request on WhatsApp, always call a person outside of WhatsApp to confirm their identity. And thirdly, report spam messages or block a sender within WhatsApp. Press and hold on the message bubble, select report, and then follow the instructions. And I'm particularly keen to promote this, addressing this issue, because I know somebody who this has happened to. I don't think they lost any money, but they felt very embarrassed by this happening, and if that's the worst of it, that's not the worst thing that can happen. But we just don't want this happening to anybody, and it can happen so easily. We've started to trust WhatsApp, I think, especially group chats and each other, and we don't want to see that undermined.
Yeah, this has similarities with previous scams where people get control of your Facebook account or your Twitter account or whatever. Wherever the people are, the scammers will go there to try and scam. So yeah, really good advice in all of that. And the last thing to say, I think, is if you do experience this, or if you experience an attempt at this, then report it to actionfraud.police.uk if you're in England, Wales, or Northern Ireland, or to Police Scotland on the phone number 101 if you're in Scotland. Because even if you've not lost anything, it's always good to report these things, because it helps the police and the other authorities kind of target resources and understand how widespread the problems are. And they can always use it in their intelligence work as well, even if they don't take any specific action on your complaint.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Okay, we got a couple more stories before we close, so we'll press on. The next one is by Rory Kessler-Jones, and he's a well-known writer about technology. And this was something you picked up, Sweyn, I think. AI in the NHS, hype or hope?
Yeah, I mean, it's one in a series of stories that we've had about AI, and is it all the best thing since sliced bread, or is it all hype, or is it somewhere in the middle? It's probably always somewhere in the middle when you ask those sorts of questions. But this is just a first go at the subject by Rory Kessler-Jones, who until recently was the BBC's technology correspondent. And he's talking about the use of AI, or the potential use of AI in healthcare. But I don't know. I mean, he says that the NHS is lurching from crisis to crisis, and many are latching on to AI as the answer to boosting productivity and starting the long-awaited move to a preventative approach to healthcare rather than waiting until people are seriously ill before we engage with them. But what he's saying is he's heard plenty of stories about innovations from commercial businesses which are trying to engage with the NHS and from a new wave of healthcare professionals eager to play a part in the revolution. But he's heard very little evidence that many have actually been deployed within hospitals or surgeries. Now, this chimes with what Dave Briggs was highlighting last week about the use of AI in local authority services. And there's quite a bit of crossover between health and local authority services, obviously. And it's just, it can be, if we could bring back Dave's 5 key things about any supposed new technical revolution, they would apply, I think, to health as well as in local authorities. So what Rory Kaplan-Jones is going to do over the next few weeks or months is chat to people in the health service and try to get to the bottom of what's going on. But I just highlighted this as another kind of cautionary reality check about AI and what it's doing and how it's going, because I do think there's a lot of hype, particularly from Rory mentioned potential suppliers. I think a lot of the hype comes from them, as you might expect. And as usual with every new kind of significant new technical thing, a few people within each sector will champion them, and that's great. But there needs to be the kind of critical thinking and the hard work of data cleansing and other stuff and quality assurance of information, particularly in health and all of that sort of stuff. You can't bypass those things by some technical fix, no matter how clever it would appear, no matter how, in quotes, intelligent you claim that it is. You still need to have the kind of certification that things are kosher that it's coming up with, because I have a feeling that the next story possibly has a good reason why that is the case. No, it doesn't. It's one that I saw online. Something about model decay, where if there's a thing that's being noticed, that where artificial intelligence models, the actual tools like ChatGPT or whatever one you're using, there's evidence that as they produce more and more terabytes of information themselves, and as they start teaching themselves using that AI derived stuff, the quality of what the AI is actually producing is going down. And there's a lot of work on at the moment to try and avoid the worst aspects of that. But it is a risk, particularly in things even if it's just administrative in the health board that's trying to be assisted by AI, never mind if it's health advice. You would need to make sure that you could rely on the model to come up with something that made sense.
Well, that was the main thrust, I think, of this article, that Tom Witcher's company, Dr. Doctor, has been working to improve the way the NHS interacts with patients. So it's the back office management of appointments, particularly one thing that they pointed at, he pulled out of it. He also says he separates the opportunities for AI deployment into 2 areas: clinical AI, your cancer diagnostic imaging type stuff, which is really well proven. The bit we're good at, he says, is the other half, which is AI to support back office. And this is kind of boring, old, unsexy stuff, he says, like helping hospitals understand which patients are likely to fail to turn up to appointments. Dr. Tom Witcher says this is a case of using AI, or more specifically machine learning, if you get into the jargon, to improve what we already do. Prediction algorithms allow their hospital clients to attend the did not attend problem, which costs the NHS 1.6 billion a year. So it sounds like it's well worth investing in. The algorithm suggests a targeted extra intervention: phone the patients up, so you have a conversation with them. Now,
who would ever have thought?
Well, I would have. I think in community organizations, this is what they do. So I can't comment on why. Anyway, they think it's a big development. But anyway, they apparently, anyway, this sort of AI technique, which works well if there's sufficient data, has been around for years. So Rory Castle-Jones is wondering where Tom Witcher sees generative AI playing a role in interactions between doctors and patients, and he points to a vast stream of unstructured data flowing around the NHS in the form of letters, often between hospital doctors and GPs. And what they realised was they can get the test results from the computer system and use a large language model to read the letter, pull out the interpretation, summarise it, and display it next to the test results. So suddenly you've context the data, and it gives makes a big difference to the person anyway. So yeah, all sounds really helpful, and means that doctors can focus on you, not on their computer. So yeah, sounds very
Well, it all sounds great,
useful.
and I hope it works. But for the last 30 years, one technical innovation after another has promised to do this, and we're still where we are.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see.
Yes. We'll operate a watching brief.
And there is a sense in which this whole interview is a potential supplier being excited about something that could potentially work.
Yeah.
The history of IT, even administrative IT in the health service, suggests that there's something about the culture of doctors, interactions between doctors and patients, interactions between independent consultant GPs and employed hospital doctors, and interactions between all the allied health professions and doctors. There's something about all that is really challenging to make significant change or progress in. And it'll be fascinating to see if AI is the one that finally does this. But there have been billions of pounds spent on technical innovations in the health service that have provided almost nothing, particularly in England, over the last 20 or 30 years. So let's hope that some of Dave Briggs's principles are actually taken seriously as this sort of stuff carries on, and we don't get caught up in the excitement of the intelligent AI as a completely different and, running out of words. It's not going to be different. It's going to be another technical revolution that needs to be managed and implemented properly if it's going to have any benefit at all.
Okie doke, and moving on to our last number of stories. This is one I think you picked out from Facebook, Sweyn. I love public libraries.
I think I did. Oh, that one. I've lost that one. But it can be summarized, but very short. Oh, I wonder if I can.
I think it might have come from Twitter. I don't know.
It came from Facebook, but was a Facebook. It was a Facebook post about a Twitter event.
Okay.
So let me find it on my list, which I should have. It's the one after Rory Captain. Oh, here we are. It will get. Here we go. Here I have it. So this was a very short one. This has probably taken me longer to find than we'll spend talking about it, but here we go. It's a tweet from someone called Icona, whose Twitter account is Icona Writes, and she's a children's author and library advocate, I think would be the best thing to say. So this has been picked up by an outfit called the Community Independent Journal, which describes itself as a place for people to outline well thought through leftist type arguments. In the tweet says, "I love public libraries because they are built on the principle that books are so important and so necessary to human flourishing that access to them cannot depend on your income." And that's the kind of fundamental centrality of libraries. And nowadays, it's not just books, as we all know. It's other important resources that are equally nowadays as important as actual books are, probably. And the Community Independent Journal has put a gloss, a spin on this, which we can agree or not agree with as we like, but here it is. Libraries are fundamentally socialist, publicly owned entities that offer unlimited access to indispensable products at collective cost. A collective cost much less than would be required if one had to buy its product. And I think whether you agree with the socialist bit or not, the rest of that is fairly hard to argue with. And for those local authorities targeting their library services, which they're all statutorily required to provide an adequate service for those many local authorities who may have cut their libraries or closed libraries, including those not a million. I don't believe Orkney Islands Council is doing this, although they did go from 2 mobile libraries to 1 some years ago, so we're not even exempt from that. But there are big cities, some of whom describe themselves as the second city of England, if not the UK. I'm looking at you again, Birmingham City Council, and Pauline's again smiling and not commenting. Come on, you can't close, is it 26 libraries and expect no impact on society? They don't cost a lot, really, when you look at all your other services. It's obvious.
All I can add to that is that Birmingham City Council is doing a consultation on the proposed changes to library services. So please do take part in the consultation.
Yeah,
we do encourage democratic involvement on this show. So yeah, go ahead with that. Okie doke. And
I think I was probably more measured in my comments than John would have been. I think I was.
We'll never know.
Huddersfield is closer to Birmingham than Orkney.
It is a little bit, yeah. So moving on, our old friend Emma Weston from Digital Unite, who an organisation we've mentioned earlier in the show, has started publishing some interesting materials about digital inclusion, which is her main topic as well. And this is from LinkedIn. The title is Digital Inclusion, Political Will and Leadership Required. And in this article, she gave a quick summary of the last 12 months, what she describes as the blistering report from the Lords Communications Digital Committee in June 2023, detailing the sustained failure of strategic leadership and political will over digital exclusion, chaired by Baroness Stowell. Then there's a response, in apostrophes, to the report from the government, from the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology in autumn 2023, and then a letter from Baroness Stowell on 19th of October in response to the response her report got. That's a bit convoluted, but all well worth reading those. And Emma goes on to say, since when it's all rumbled on, and if you're digitally included, you can follow the story, as she describes it, through Hansard Online and Parallel Parliament, where all written questions and answers are also recorded. She says you can read the transcript of the digital exclusion debate in the House of Commons on the 28th of February 2024, secured by Justin Madders from Labour, the Labour Party, who opens with the fact that we have so many members here suggests that many things that we deal with as members of Parliament are as a result of digital exclusion, which is a pretty strong statement, and we'll see what else was said about that. The minister who had to be seen to pick up the DI pieces, Saqib Bhatti, Secretary of State at DSIT, did have sensible things to say, such as, we know from key stakeholders digital inclusion interventions work best when they are tailored to local needs and when support is provided in the community on an ongoing basis. And I can testify to this in the West Midlands. The Combined Authority are going to be funding digital inclusion, digital skill support in the community, not on not just in classroom environments. So that's good to know. Emma went on to say, this is also sensible, and she quotes, digital skills permeate through every aspect of policy. I view it as part of a cross-government agenda to integrate digital inclusion into all policy decisions rather than a standalone issue. I chair the group on digital inclusion, and I will be addressing some of the issues that have been raised there. All departments, this is Emma's emphasis, are considering the needs of people who are digitally excluded in their policy making. So this is from the politicians in this debate. Emma goes on to say, a month after the debate, consult the online record of written questions and you'll find one tabled by Chris Bryant on March 26 asking, when was the last digital inclusion interministerial meeting and who was there? He also asked what budget the group had, and Saqib Bhatti replied, the most recent ministerial group meeting took place in March 2024, chaired by the Minister for Tech and the Digital Economy, the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, Cabinet Office, Department for Work and Pensions and His Majesty's Treasury were also in attendance. Emma's comment on that's 5 departments of 24. She goes on to write, as to where the fabled leadership should sit, I'm not entirely sure it would sit with DSIT. I think digital inclusion / exclusion gets lost in S&I. And T of DSIT, the elephant in the room that someone is always frantically trying to throw a huge tarpaulin over, while canopies are served around way cool things like space growth projects, tech unicorns, and quantum technologies. Yeah, can't argue with that. She suggests Cabinet Office, which also holds government digital services, where the government's own digital transformation journey started. To her mind, this is quite a similar structural discussion as the where does digital inclusion sit in government. Both are essentially about central stroke local, strategic stroke specific, horizontal stroke vertical models. Emma says that when something is as profound as digital inclusion, the model needs to be central and local, strategic and specific, horizontal and vertical. Digital inclusion is both a continuum, horizontal, and also needs to be properly grasped and provisioned for thematically or in a needs-based way. These are the verticals: health, education, housing, etc. But she does go on to say, ultimately, where and how the political leadership is not the most is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that it's a long-term commitment with a long-term vision and strategic and structured approach to getting the thing done, with people attached to the brief who are committed, passionate, and accountable, and who can get 24, not 5 departments to a cross-government meeting. She also says, and who have either money to spend making DI change happen, or who are prepared and able to make every department make a financial commitment of their own to it within their work program. Spend and reimagined as investment, not cost. And she says, and this has been said elsewhere, investing in digital inclusion is one of the easiest returns on investment the new government can make. For every £1 investment, there's a return on investment of £9.48 and 1.4 billion accruing to the government in efficiency savings. She finishes the article by saying, what can you do? Which is us reading and listening. Read more. Than what she has to say, connect with others who are thinking of digital exclusion and inclusion. So welcome to the Dr. Tech Show. Ask those who come canvassing soon to be your MP how they'll be supporting digital inclusion where you live, and look further afield, not just the UK. We're not a world leader in digital inclusion. There are things we can learn from around the world, and she says she'll be writing more about that next. So I think a really good, timely article that we can all learn from. And I do think Dr. Tech Show is a good example of where people can learn more.
Yeah, it is a place that anything can be raised and talked about. And I think Emma should write another article saying what she really thinks, though.
Yes. Okay. Well,
no, it's really good to see something as clear as that.
It is.
Specific recommendations aimed at anybody that is interested in the area for 3 things that they can do. It's calling out this ridiculous unanswering of questions that government does all the time on everything, and it's absolutely focused on what's required. It's a really good article, and I will be sending it to my MP and to all my candidates in the hope that they will.
Excellent. Yeah, in Birmingham,
I'll be astonished. The good thing in this, the positive in this that I saw was that so many MPs turned up for that debate, and I think that is as Emma says herself, that is a telling thing. What we need is to somehow allow that political interest to get focused on the relevant bits of government. I'm not quite sure I'm with her on the thing about getting 24 people around a table rather than 5. I think, maybe the big departments that have most to do probably were those 5, with probably 1 or 2 others that weren't there. But I mean, I think, if just practically speaking, if you try and get 24 different organizations to align and do something, then it's quite
you're going to end up with a camel. Yeah. So and maybe if they're the 5 right people, yes, they can be better.
And they do need to draw in the others. But I think the one thing I disagree with is that a committee of 24 at this stage would be better than a committee of 5 or 7. But generally,
we will see what else Emma is writing about. She's always worth reading and listening to what she writes about. So well done to her, and we will look forward to more of the same. And so that brings us to the end of the show, this week's show. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we hope that you've found something beneficial in what we bring to you on a sort of a weekly basis.
Almost weekly basis.
Almost weekly basis. Having said that, next week is the bank holiday, and we are going to be off air. But
Are
we'll
we?
be back.
I thought it was
Yeah, we
the
are.
3rd. Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
no,
Good.
2 weeks in a row. We're off 27th and
Oh,
the
right,
3rd.
yes.
And then we'll be back with a guest on the 10th of June. So we look forward to rejoining you on the 10th of June. But please do keep in touch with us. And if you've got any good stories or guests, including yourself, then please do contact us and we'd love to hear from you.
I'm glad you've got the
So-
diary sorted out, Pauline, because I don't, clearly.
Yeah,
There
it's
we
a
are.
it's a paper diary, and I'm not ashamed of it. Paper is also valuable in this digital inclusion world. So we hope you have a great week and a couple of weeks, and we'll see you in June. So have a great week.
Absolutely.
Thank
Have a
you.
great week.
Bye-bye. Bye.